Also, a special welcome to Sunim, who's visiting from Korea. We're delighted to have you with us. So the title for this talk today is The Whole Truth and Nothing But the Truth. That might sound familiar to you. It's something that people say when they promise to tell everything correctly and not leave out anything and be completely honest. There's the great Tang Dynasty Zen master Jeong Ji, who once said, quite famously, "Every day is a good day." Is this true or not? Some might be immediately riled by such a statement. There is catastrophe and trial and mayhem and crisis and life and death and suffering all over the world. And yet, Jeong Ji had the chutzpah to say, every day is a good day. What does this mean? What is the truth? It may seem like these days in our current version of the world that truth is a commodity that's available to anyone who shouts the loudest, who repeats something often enough with the idea, with the idea that if it's repeated often enough, it will become true, or people will swallow it as the truth. There are so many competing views. What is the truth? My husband, as some of you know, is from mainland China, and it's something of a national sport to try to discern what is true in that world, where the Great Wall of China has been replaced by the Great Firewall of China. Do any of you know about this firewall? So this is the complete, nothing is ever complete, but their attempt at blocking off access to information and discussion. So it's a national sport to jump over the firewall and to decipher what is true and what isn't true. So currently in China, the president, Xi Jinping, created a stimulus package for the economy. And, with a lot of fanfare and selling this economic passage as something that's going to turn around the economic crisis. Everything will be well again. And my husband, who has heard this kind of talk all his life, takes it, of course, with a grain of salt. So, that being said, we are all susceptible both to accepting what other people say is true, and also we're susceptible to being cynics and not believing anybody. How can we know what is true? How can we know what to follow? So the Buddha had something to say about this, because obviously this was a problem way back then. Probably no different than today. And as the story goes, this is from the Kesamati Sutra, otherwise known as the Buddha's Charter on Free Inquiry, which I think is kind of an interesting subtitle. So within this story, the people known as the Kalamas said to the Buddha, "There are, sir, some ascetics and Brahmins who come to Kesamutta. They explain and promote only their own doctrine, while they attack, badmouth, disparage, and smear the doctrines of others. Then some other ascetics and Brahmins come to Kesamutra. They too explain and promote their own doctrine, while they attack, badmouth, disparage, and smear the doctrines of others. So, sir, we're doubting and uncertain. I wonder who of these respected ascetics and Brahmins speaks the truth, and who speaks falsehood. It is enough, the Buddha said, for you to be doubting and uncertain. Doubt has come up in you about an uncertain matter. Please, Kalamas, don't go by oral transmission. Don't go by lineage. Don't go by testament. Don't go by canonical authority. Don't rely on logic. Don't rely on inference. Don't go by reasoned train of thought. Don't go by the acceptance of a view after deliberation. Don't go by the appearance of competence. And don't think the ascetic is our respected teacher. Rather, you should know for yourselves. Rather, you should know for yourselves by direct experience. As my root teacher, Zen Master Sung San, would often say, know for yourself whether it's hot or cold. So this is a very interesting historical document. All the way back then, the great teacher says, don't rely on my words. Don't rely on anyone's words. Know for yourself. So if we are to apprehend truth, it has to be experienced. Every day is a good day. What does that mean? Right here, right now. Central to the teachings of Buddhism are the teachings of two truths. Many of you have probably heard of this already. The two truths, one being the absolute truth which cannot be spoken, which cannot be inferred, cannot be taught, cannot be argued, cannot be discussed, but underlies and permeates the entire cosmos. Sometimes we call this before thinking mind, or don't know mind. This is the ground of reality, the absolute truth. And the only way that the absolute truth reveals itself is through the relative truth. The provisional, momentary, fleeting phenomenon of this very moment. So this is how we activate both together through the vehicle of our being. I would like to offer up a caution, or at least maybe it's just my opinion. Maybe all of this is my opinion, but there's a common phrase that we hear these days, which is, I am speaking my truth. I am speaking my truth. As if there is something fixed and irrefutable in that whatever I am saying, at least for me, is true. I think I understand where this is coming from, because where I am looking, I see the sunlight on the pavement, and nobody else sees it quite like that. On the other hand, this can be really an attachment to a point of view, an attachment to a feeling. Maybe a better way to say this, rather than I am speaking my truth, it might be more accurate to say, I am speaking from a partial and distorted vantage point with a significant portion of fear, desire, anger, and ignorance, and which is all then covered over with opinions and various fabrications of certainty, like the scaffolding of a dream. Maybe that would be more accurate. It's interesting, isn't it? So I think that if we want to integrate these two truths, this absolute reality and our provisional ... everything I just said plus more, provisional view, we should always, in our practice as Zen students, hold the provisional view lightly, like this, the open hand. Open hand. Not like a stake in the ground. This is the way I see it, and the rest of you, with an open hand, with the generosity of this deeper truth that we are all completely connected by and with. When we talk about relative truth as a true reflection of this moment world, it's helpful to think of it keeping our mind like a mirror. So if our mind is clear, if we're so lucky as to be clear in any given moment, then we can reflect reality as it is. So our mind is clear, the fan are turning, the sunlight and shadows in the garden. This is a provisional truth that is clear and not distorted. But provisional because someone sitting just to my left sees something different, reflects something different. In the flux and flow of reality, it is our practice to discern. Is our mind clear? Are we seeing clearly, or is this habit energy invoking a melodrama in our head? Or is our experience, for example, so weighed by emotions, like a cloud, that we can't see anything other than that? So it's something we can ask ourselves. Is this clear? Or is it habit energy? There's a phrase that I read or I tried to remember this morning after early morning practice from the Diamond Sutra, the ending verse. So listen to this fleeting world, a star at dawn, a bubble in a stream, a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, a flickering lamp, a phantom, and a dream. This is how we perceive the truth of this moment world. One other further note about feelings and reality. I think it's important that we respect every aspect of our provisional view and world. Feelings are also real. I think that as Zen students, there can be a tendency to want to disown them or be done with them or try to control them in one way or another. But again, if we recognize them, and recognizing them is already respecting what appears, then we can, with this open hand of awareness, they are free, the feelings are free to come and go. We can respect whatever appears, and we can also not be attached and let it go. Because it will come and go, as all things do. I think that as a practice point, in terms of meeting and greeting the truth as it appears, it's important in our meditation to broaden our awareness. Sometimes I will use the word a spacious awareness. While we may have the training to focus on our breath, on counting, or on a mantra, it's also critical to create wide awareness. Like having 360 degrees vision, 360 degrees sensation, awareness. Then we experience the spaciousness of truth as it comes and goes, of events and feelings as they come and go in this great big bowl of awareness. I think that in terms of, just going back to the feelings thing, in terms of how to find your balance and non-attachment but respect of feelings, if our energy is locked in our heads or in our hearts, often stuck in the heart zone when strong emotions come, when you are breathing in meditation, bring that energy down to your center. Exhale down to the center. And this is a zone where you can find stability, equanimity in the midst of anything. If we can develop a mind that is clear, it's then possible to act with clarity and with truth. Putting together spacious awareness and clarity, there results a seamless, fitting, compassionate function. Not relying on any kind of slogan version of truth or teacher version of truth, but in the moment's truth. Naturally, without pre-thought, we can find our fitting and beautiful function. So that's really all I had to say on the matter of truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. The whole truth is always already present. Let's just open our minds and our awareness and our hearts to include all of it. Oh, one more comment about Jeong Ji and his famous teaching, his truth. Every day is a good day. What does this truth mean? Thank you so much for listening. If anyone has any questions, I welcome them.
If we have questions, I have a microphone.
Oh, okay. I encourage questions. Questions help everyone. Or comments. Or critiques.
Okay. A question about this idea of, for whose sake is this microphone? For the recording?
Can't hear you until you talk into it.
I think you can. Hello, hello. Anyway, this idea about compassionate action, functioning, clear, spacious, without pre-thought, doing something good. What about big questions? How does Buddhism, Zen, help or inform or be a part of, let's say, social action, political action, where we can't magically know the most well-functioning action vis-a-vis the economy in China or the war in Gaza or some big question like that?
I would say, first of all, the big question and the small question, are they really so different? One of the things that I feel is important as Buddhist practitioners is that I don't feel that it's our job to, I don't think we should align with any point of view as a Sangha. There are many truths, and there are many sufferings and many vantage points. However, we do have a responsibility to help this world. So big or small, this comes to the same thing. Do the right thing. There is no formula. Each one of us has a responsibility. As I said mentioned in the essay that I wrote for this month's newsletter, to do nothing is also to do something. And it may not be what we intend. So sometimes I think Zen students may take a position of silence or not doing as perhaps being the appropriate response. Maybe it is sometimes. Maybe it isn't other times. Does that address your comment a little?
Yeah. I mean, I do think when I mean small thing, sort of an immediate thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone, your glass is about to spill and I just help you out and grab it.
Mm-hmm.
And then things that require gathering information and discussion and finding an expert who might know more than you, are not as in the moment.
That I have to jump in there, because then I have to ask, how big is the moment? Because the moment, can you show me where it begins and where it ends? This planning, this gathering of information, that also is a moment's work. Not separate. Not separate. Not isolated. Any other questions?
Thank you. How do we approach the truth when it comes to other people's feelings? Like if the truth is going to hurt somebody else? Because it sounds like this is a practice for ourselves in accepting the truth in our own lives. But what if we have to speak the truth and we know that it's going to be hurtful to somebody?
Mm-hmm. I think I would say that our practice is not just for ourselves. But it starts here, doesn't it? It starts here. If we're clear, if we develop our ability to see and feel clearly, then this will help others. It's a difficult question that you bring up. When to open one's mouth, when to keep it closed. What is, again, the right thing to do? There is no formula. Sometimes the right thing is a painful thing. Sometimes it's not helpful, sometimes it is. I think one guiding principle, I might say, I use in my own practice is I look at my own energy, and if my energy is stirred up, somewhat emotionally reactive, then I know from a lot of experience I better just keep quiet until my energy is settled. I think sometimes in our relationships with others, in our well-intended effort to do the right thing, we often are responding to tone and energy more than anything that might be said. So I think it is helpful to, if we are unstable or unclear, sometimes we can't help ourselves and things fly out of our mouths. This is human, and we're teetering on an edge constantly. Again, as my root teacher used to say about mistakes, say mistakes are no problem, just make it correct. Or as he also used to say, try for 10,000 years nonstop. If we wait until we're somehow perfect, well, it's not going to happen. Yeah. So there's a lot of kindness that we have to offer ourselves. Anything else?
I'm very interested in Yunmen's Every Day is a Good Day and its relationship to relative and absolute. What came to mind for me, and I wanted to check this out if this is something along the lines of what you're talking about, is if imagining a terrible day in terms of getting in a car accident and ending up in the emergency room and nobody's paying attention to you there and you end up getting an infection. I mean, that's a bad day, and your experience of it especially if someone's who's looking on at this, a loved one or something, it feels bad. And sometimes every day is a good day sounds, I don't know, well, like a slap in the face or something.
Mhm.
However, there are moments in that where there's a human kindness, or you see the light coming in the window a certain way, or you get a perspective on life and death that is new, or something that is absolute
Mhm. Mhm.
at the same
yeah,
time.
I really appreciate you bringing that up, and I think you're definitely touching on an important truth. It it brings up the question: what is good? What is bad? In the thusness of whatever the moment holds, there is something that is so indescribable and so pure, I might say. I remember an incident when I almost died when I was 16. I've been very close to this issue that Giko brought up about the war in Gaza, the endless confrontations. When I was 16, I decided that I was going to live there. And I was traveling on a bus, and this is at a time when buses were being bombed in Israel. And it was quite prevalent. So I was going from one place to another, and I was in a bus. And suddenly this Jeep behind us is in a real hurry, is tailgating us. And they zoomed up in front of us and went ahead like for 1 minute, and they blew up. They blew up. It was supposed to be us on the bus. And that moment, the bus driver was so hysterical. Everyone screaming and crying. And that moment, of thusness and being so close. Being a partner to something horrendous, not even a partner, just there. It's not about good, it's about completeness. I really appreciate this question and the others. I think that we're getting into what this is all about. Any others? What, maybe one more? Okay, thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate your attention and your